Hey guys, it's Marissa from Grow in the Flow, and I'm popping in here on Thriving Thursday. I have a couple of minutes, and I thought I would come in here and do a little energetic check-in, see how everybody's doing. We left off here with this retrograde tarot spread that we did ahead of Mercury retrograde, which is in full effect. We're more than halfway through. The previous video, if you haven't seen it, I'm putting a link to it here. It's also pinned at the top of our group. If you want to go ahead and see the background information about Mercury retrograde, some tips and pointers of navigating through that, as well as other energetic astrological events. But the overarching theme is mindfulness, not fearfulness, right? So we're not in fear. We're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. We are empowering ourselves with information on how we can best navigate the current energies, which are all just a part of the natural rhythm and flow of the universe. So here we are, Mercury retrograde started on May 10th. It continues through June 3rd. So like I said, we're more than halfway there, but we know once Mercury stations direct on June 3rd, there is a retrograde shadow period where some of that residual energy will go on until about June 19th. Now, along with that, there's a number of other things going on. There is Pluto is in retrograde at this time. There's 2 other planets going retrograde in June, and each one of them rule different aspects and will affect us and show up in our lives in many and varied ways. So we'll talk more about that as we tune into the June energy right around the corner. There's a ton of things on the docket for June. But today I thought I would just kind of piggybacking off of this 5-card spread that we did that was sort of doing an energetic weather report of what we might expect with Mercury retrograde. Now that we're here, I'm very curious how it has been playing out for you, how each of these cards that have that came up and just sort of what we were tuning into as far as what retrograde may have in store, or interruptions that it may cause, or important shifts that will potentially occur at this time, things to be mindful of, and how can it help us on our karmic path. So sort of reflecting back on those cards, I thought I'd get that same deck out and maybe pull 3 cards, kind of looking at the past, present, and future energy. So that's sort of saying, how have we fared thus far? What do we need to know about, where we are energetically with Mercury retrograde coming from the past, from May 10th forward? And then take a look at the present, what is happening in and around us now with respect to retrograde, and then the future for the duration. So these are my big giant cards. I'm trying a different way with the camera here. This is how I typically do my empowered tarot readings. My healings are usually camera down, so you're able to see what I'm seeing. So I thought it would be nice to kind of show you that. Usually a little more panned out so you can see your full healing altars and so forth. But I'm actually all set up here to get ready to do a healing. So I just wanted to pop in here, and we're using this closer angle, so you're getting a real close-up look with these cards. So let's go ahead and tune in for a card for the past energies, the recent past energies with retrograde. Let's get one for the present. Love these cards. Ooh, yeah, you're telling me, no kidding. And the future for the duration of retrograde, what we may expect collectively. And again, as a collective reading, we're tuning into those universal energies, meaning some aspects will resonate with you more than others. And you're, oh yeah, we've got a repeat card that came up, and it's one of the more powerful ones. What resonates with you, you're welcome to take and leave the rest. The best way for you to get specific guidance is to read on your personal energy and having a one-on-one reading. But let's take a look here from a collective aspect. So here we have the recent past since we've been in retrograde, and we have this awesome card. This is the Magician. Magician is card 1 of the major arcana, so it's a significant stop along our way on our journeys. And as we move through retrograde, the Magician reminds us that we have all the tools that we need. We already have everything to make the magic, but the key component is that we must have a willingness to use those tools, to hone our crafts, and most importantly, to make mistakes. Be willing to make mistakes and know that there really are no mistakes. It's information gathering. It's okay, I tried this worked, this didn't, now I move forward empowered with that information. So when we reflect back on some of the cards that came forward from our 5-card spread, interruptions that may be caused, what may be in store, there has been a need for figuring out a way to make things work in the nooks and crannies. And I love how this is showing like a city scene, an unlikely place perhaps for a bustling garden or for sunflowers to be blossoming. And yet the perseverance and the endurance of using your tools, using what you have, making it work despite disruptions, despite challenges, despite setbacks. And here, let's see what we have from the animal kingdom. So we have a bird and we have a snake. The snake has been very representative of the transformation and change that we're undergoing, shedding the skins of the soul, outgrowing those skins and having this opportunity to shed them. And here I'm just going to look, there's another bird up there. So yeah, the birds have really been coming around too, as in a way of messengers, carrying messages and bringing them forward. I talked previously about the blue jay as communication. We talked about transformation and change with the crow and the vulture. So more nods to that nature symbolism, the breadcrumbs, the things in nature. So you may have been feeling, because we're looking at past energy, recent past in retrograde, you may have been feeling like you were getting little nudges, little winks, a lot of breadcrumbs, as I call them, spiritual breadcrumbs falling, that as you follow those, as you notice them and reflect upon what is this showing up to show me, to tell me, that you see more and more and more. It gets clearer and clearer. So through this period of retrograde, some of the cards that came up before were carrying an energy of making repair to foundations, old ways of being, relationships, situations that were in need of some reinforcement and repairs. There was this really strong reference to bricklaying, reinforcing. And so what do we need to do that? We need to use our tools. We need to hone our craft. And yeah, there's a little magic involved, a little practical magic, bringing that forward here, which we're seeing. And one thing that I'm getting here with the sunflower, the sunflower is such a beautiful symbol on many levels, but we think about how, the sunflower moves and stretches to find the sun, to find that source of energy, and also will turn to each other and support each other when in need. And so take from that what you will in terms of a nod to the need to lean into community, tribe, strength when you are weak. I'm getting like a lean on me kind of energy here with how we may have been feeling in the past recent weeks. But the magician does remind us that we do have all the tools that we need. So let's go ahead and see where that leads us with our current energy. So what we have here, this is the 10 of blades, the 10 of swords, and it speaks for itself in a very visceral way. I'm going to kind of move you through what's happening here. This person literally depicted as being sort of attacked from all angles, stabbed in the back, down and out. And that is exactly what the 10 of Swords talks about. The 10 of Swords talks about being down and out, really, like literally the traditional face down, 10 swords in the back. And so the number 10 is a representation of the completion of cycles, coming full circle, the ending of something. So here we are at present. What's going on around you? How are you feeling, right? Now, again, it shows up for us in all different ways. I can tell you that last weekend, I threw my back out in the center of my back, in between my shoulder blades. And it actually happened to me doing nothing. I was in the shower. But at the time, I was thinking about grief, heavy grief that is happening in my community and some things that are going on around here where I was really feeling the feels and trying to process that. And yet suddenly I had this pain in my back that I couldn't connect to any physical event that happened that I threw out my back. So that's speaking to me, again, on a personal level. I'm sharing that with you to say, to the extent that at present you are feeling run down, down and out, and this can just be, it can be physical. You might be feeling some physical ailments, some pain, anything with the back, but also emotional, and I would venture to say that it's pretty fair that, many of us, and certainly as a collective people, would be feeling that at this time. And so the silver lining in the Ten of Swords is, again, the ending of a cycle coming through to completion. Now we know, I'm going to lift this up so we can see maybe a little closer if the camera will pick up for us, just a reflection back on the cards we got, because we're about to see number 2 again. And that's very powerful for me to be making that statement. But keeping it light and simple today, we look at some of the energy that came forward when we wanted to know, what we need to be mindful of. And we had this 3 of Pentacles. And the 3 of Pentacles here, called the 3 of Coins, had this sort of like a steamboat. And all of these people, I know it's hard to look, big giant finger, all of these people who were all playing their roles, all having a part at keeping this steamboat afloat, okay? So with that in mind, 10 of Swords comes in. Let's bring it down to how that can show up in your life, relationships that could be strained, communications that could be difficult, like you're not on the same page or struggling to communicate, or maybe just, like I said, feeling really run down. I think May is such a busy month for everyone. There tends to be like a lot of overcommitting in May when it comes to end of the year, school year, like for those of us that have school age children around us. So many activities at school as that winds down. There's graduations, there's weddings, there's parties, there's so many different things that have us coming at us from all angles. And I think depending on the boundaries that you may have set or your previous experiences of finding out something worked or it didn't, you may or may not be able to say no. You may or may not be in a position where you're putting your self-care as a priority, or following the cues of your body when it's time to rest, and that's one thing that we know is that if you don't heed those nudges, they will come louder and louder until you are in a situation where it must be done, and so that's not for everybody, but in some cases, if we're really feeling spread thin, that could be a message for us to be mindful of when it comes to, what's coming up for us at this time, to really sit with and look at how am I going to bring in my tools to hone this and to streamline this in a way that's going to work for me where it's not working now. Now, the third card, again, very striking because this is the card that came up in position 2. Position 2 says an interruption that this retrograde may cause. Now, again, we talked a little bit about the opportunity for seeing this as a collective message. We have here what appears to be a protest. We have 2 sides that are at odds. There was a reference back to the Temperance card, which in this deck is an amazing depiction of 2 sides very staunchly set in their ways, closed off and unwilling to come together, and yet seeing that they are both juice as they are in that deck. So now that I said that, I'm going to have to pull that out. So I'm going to talk about this card while I take a look in the deck for the Temperance card. This is the future for the duration of retrograde. So here we are in this place, the 7 of Wands. So 7 of Wands is talking about the need for boundaries, the need for a pause in all of that action. And so we see here that there's a lot going on. There's a lot coming from all directions. There's a lot of very fiery and passionate feelings. And yet, how do we harness that and bring it forward in the highest vibrational way? Here's Temperance. Okay, so taking a look at this card, we're talking about that middle path. We're talking about that way that shows us that there's 2 opposing sides, views, individuals, circumstances, whatever it is, very closed off and set. And yet we are asked to bring into a situation in our life, to bring into a point of view or a perspective that we're having, some degree of fluidity, some degree of flexibility to allow ourselves to potentially see things from different angles. And so this card just really speaks to me on many levels about that invitation that exists for us here on this middle path, where you see one might be made from red apples and the other from green, but they are both apples. And so we have so much more in common than not. And so again, bring that down to your level. What's showing up for you that's causing some friction in your life over this retrograde season? And I'm talking like, okay, yeah, maybe it is just like the simple things like electronics being on the fritz, or car troubles, or, everything going wrong when it comes to your day, just like your day to day. Because it's Mercury retrograde. But if you are experiencing challenges communicating with others, challenges finding this middle path, there's no room here for a middle path when we're so intensely pressed up against something that we're clinging to, something that, and so there's a lot more here, but I think what we're seeing is this opportunity for us to find the middle and be able to take it from there. And I'm going to ask for one clarifying card on that, because as we round out retrograde here, what do we need to know to continue as we move through, giving ourselves the space and grace to experience those energies with as much ease as possible? So however that's showing up for you, what do we need to know? What's a final little punctuation mark on those messages? Beautiful. Ace of Cups. So the cups are the suit of the water element, which is flow, which is emotion. But the Ace of Cups is a beautiful offering. It's an offering of new clarity, new awarenesses. And I love how it's depicted here with three diverse individuals who are together in this like team-like way, and they're swimmers. And so what are we doing when we talk about water being emotion and we find ourselves completely submerged in those waters and we're swimming, we're swimming or we're sinking, right? And so how do we uplift each other as a team to be able to finish that race? And so again, navigating those waters, where are my tools? How am I going to get there? How am I going to move through all this? Because this is dense and heavy, and I'm going to sink like a rock if I don't find a way to be buoyant and more flexible and flow through whatever challenges come my way. So again, take this to wherever it resonates for you. We have the dragonfly here. Dragonfly is a very strong spiritual symbol. It often does symbolize change and transformation, and also like a perseverance and ability to withstand. So, there's a lot of, there's two dragonflies here. The goggles are also, they took their goggles off, right? The goggles are sitting on top. Recognize that the lenses that we look through color our view, our experiences, and everybody has their own set of goggles. Okay, so as you encounter people, situations, and circumstances that are difficult and challenged and hard to connect, recognize that we all have this set of lenses that we carry. And so if I'm trying to look at things from different vantage points and perspectives, how can I see it through a different lens, through someone else's lens, to take a moment to consider? So there's, I could keep going, but I will leave it here to say that this is a race that can be won, right? Whatever challenges that you are experiencing and how it shows up in your life. And again, Mercury retrograde is known for communication snafus, difficulty communicating with others, not being on the same page, having maybe disagreements or challenges in that way. What are some tools and ways that we can work with this energy and to rebuild, to replant, to nurture the things that we're looking to bring into our lives, and clear out the things that are no longer serving, to shed and release those things? In what ways is that showing up in our lives that we're asked to hold this path, hold this middle path. I really like how we got the symmetry here with the 3 and this fluidity of the juice and the water and the flow. So I'm feeling something that does feel very clarifying and cleansing. And that's what we're going to find as we wind down retrograde and some of the other astrological aspects that are coming in. We are going to find that fog is lifting, that mist is clearing, and things become a lot more clear. Right now, we're just navigating these waters that can be a little muddy, a little murky, and definitely can be very overwhelming at times and all-encompassing. So hang in there, use your tools, lean into your community, and just know that you are present with whatever is, and that you are moving through that with as much grace and ease as possible. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you have found some of these messages to resonate for you. If you have any other observations or awarenesses that have been coming through for you throughout this retrograde period, I would love for you to share below in the comments. I am sending you so much love and many blessings. Take good care.